Hey there, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we are going to talk about shift number 4. Now, in this playlist of videos that you see on my channel, I would love for you to go back to video 1 called Shame on You Teachers. The purpose of these videos is to bring the science of reading research into our classroom and be very intentional about it and bring it in methodically, okay? So because, again, I've said this in the last few videos, I hate saying throw out the baby with the bathwater. I just hate that saying, but that's kind of what's kind of happening. So what we want to do is, and what I want to do to help teachers is to learn the research, and then take these pieces of research and start implementing them in our classrooms very methodically. So that's what this series is about. We want to start moving from that balanced literacy into more of structured literacy. Now, let me preface by saying I was a balanced literacy teacher forever, 24 years, okay? However, in my opinion, based on what I'm seeing in social media and on the podcasts and all the articles and everything, is that balanced literacy has become synonymous with the 3 cueing systems. Now, please, if you haven't watched the second shift video in this series, please watch that. It's very important because that you watch these in order because they all build upon each other. So I do not believe balanced literacy is synonymous with the 3 cueing systems. Do I believe the 3 cueing systems is what was utilized in schools and within reading programs for the last 30 to 40 years? Yep, I do. Do I think it harmed children as what's being said? Harm is such a it's such a hard word. I don't believe it harmed them. I do believe that we could be doing something different to make sure all children learn. So it's the words that are being used. It's the narrative that's being used that kind of just hits my heart. And it's what's causing this divide against the reading wars. It's really what's creating that divide. And my goal is to not divide teachers. My goal is to bring us together as a community and feel and empower each other and feel empowered by our learning and be empowered by our practice and bring the science into it. That's what these videos are all about. It's about making small incremental changes which will reap huge benefits for all of your students. So with that being said, let's jump right into, this is shift number 4. So again, please go back and watch the other videos because they really help kind of pave the way for where we are right now. So shift number 4 is about high frequency words, also known sometimes as sight words. So you might be calling them sight words, you might be calling them high frequency words. Sometimes they became synonymous with each other. They're really not synonymous, but we are just going to start calling these words high frequency words. They were termed or coined sight words over the years because children were expected to know them by sight and memorize them very quickly and automatically in order to recall them. So they were called sight words because they needed to know them on sight. But what we really need to be calling them is high frequency words, words that are frequently seen in books and literature and texts. So we are going to refer to them as high frequency words and not sight words. Now, one thing to know is all high frequency words are not irregular, which is sometimes where the heated debates come in. Many, actually the majority of high frequency words are decodable and phonetic. First of all, the word decodable means you can decode it, right? So you can read it, right? Really, I think the word we should be utilizing is phonetic. Does it follow the 44 sounds in the English language? That's really like what phonetic means, right? They become irregular when they go against or when they don't follow the 44 English sounds in the English language. So what I think we need to just try and start thinking about our language when we're talking about high frequency words and talk to them about being phonetic. Phonetic meaning they're regular and they follow the 44 sounds of the English language. Irregular means they don't always follow, or maybe a portion of the word doesn't follow the 44 sounds of the English language, and it's like an exception. It has a different sound. So with that being said, we're going to talk about high frequency words today, and we're going to talk about how to teach them, why to teach them, in what way to teach them, and what's the best way to do that to move more towards a structured approach to literacy. All right? So first, let's start with high frequency words. So this list of 109 high frequency words are the most utilized words and the most frequent words that children will see and read in children's books and children's literature. Leveled readers, decodable readers, things like that. These are them, 109 most common words, high frequency words students will see in their reading. Now, if students learn these 109 high frequency words automatically, right away, and on sight, which means the words have already been mapped in their brain, in their orthographic lexicon, they can automatically recognize that. Now, as adults, as literate adults, when we look at a word and we automatically know what that word is, like ambulance, we could read the word ambulance on sight, right, for a variety of reasons. But we know the word ambulance because it has already been mapped in that part of our brain. And now it has become part of our orthographic lexicon. And that word becomes a sight word to us because we know it on sight. So any word that we can automatically recognize should be termed or coined a sight word because we automatically know it on sight. So with this knowledge now, let's talk about these high frequency words. So in our program, Structured Literacy with Ease, we created something called the readiness sequence. It comes right after the sound sequence. The sound sequence is the first sequence in our Structured Literacy with Ease program because it goes through the 26 letters of the alphabet and the sounds that are associated with each of those letters. Now, after they have a solid base of all of the sounds of the alphabet and what each letter makes and their sound, then we actually move into this sequence, which is called the readiness sequence, which is the foundational sequence of helping students learn these 109 high frequency words. However, we're not expecting children to memorize high frequency words. We're going to explicitly and systematically teach these 109 words to our students based on, number one, assessment data, because we're going to first assess our students on these 109 words, and we want to make sure that we know which words they know and which ones but they don't, and then we're going to explicitly teach them how to read these words. Now, it's very important to understand these 109 words based on the research and their derivatives. If children can automatically, quickly read these words on sight and their derivatives, meaning if a word adds an S or an ing or an ed. So these 109 words and their derivatives, a child can read up to 90% of a book that you put in front of them. Yes, that is a true statistic based on research. If children can read 109, these 109 high frequency words and their derivatives, which means adding inflected endings, S, ing, ed, they can read up to 90% of single syllable words that students encounter in the books that they read. Staggering piece of research. So that's why we included it in Structured Literacy with Ease. So the first step is to assess students quickly, easily, very simple, with these 109 words to see if they know them. If they know them, great. They've mastered them already. They're already stored in their orthographic lexicon. If they have to sit there and you show them the word said, and they start going, what are they doing? They're sounding it out. They do not know that word on sight. So within the program in Structured Literacy with Ease, we created this assessment, and what we did was we created a digital assessment as well that you could then take the data from assessing all of the students in your class, and this spreadsheet we created generates an automated list of what words each student doesn't know. So then we want you to create skills groups. Now we want you to pull these 6 kids to learn these 10 words. We want you to pull these 4 kids to learn these 5 words. We want you to pull these 5 kids to learn these 15 words. So what we want to do is we want to be very explicit and systematic in the words and how we're teaching them, but we want to pull skills group. Why am I going to teach children how to read these words? If I have 3 children in my class, 3 students in my class that can read all of these 109 words, should I teach them how to read them again? Does that make sense? No. So our readiness assessment for these 109 frequency words will tell you which words students know, which ones they don't know, and then it automatically generates groups of students for you to then pull the group and say, okay, these 5 children, they need to know these words, and directly and explicitly teach them. Now, the direct and explicit teaching of these high frequency words will give them a solid foundation to start decodable readers, right? Now, our decodable readers, or hopefully any decodable readers that you're using, need to spiral and scaffold in skills and complexity. So within our readiness sequence, when we already know which words students know and which words students don't know, now we pull our skills group. So now we're going to pull a group of students and we're going to teach 2, 3, maybe 4 high frequency words, depending on, again, how many they can handle, their ability level, their attention span. All of those things need to come into play when you're grouping your students and you're going to then do skill-based instruction groups, okay? So the first thing you're going to do, or at least you're going to do based on our lesson plans, is we do some phonological awareness activities with sentence segmentation. That's the first thing. We like to bring in phonological awareness in our lessons because it's a foundational part of having children become solid, fluent readers. They need phonological awareness. It's foundational to their reading success. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on some isolated sounds using our sound deck and sound review to review the sounds you've already taught in the sound sequence of the 26 letters of the alphabet, okay? The next thing you're going to do is now we're going to explicitly teach whatever words that specific group of students don't know. Again, you're not doing all 109. It's going to take probably 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks to teach your students these words. But trust me, it will be instrumental in getting your students to read and comprehend the decodable books that spiral in skills and complexity. So the next part is mapping. So let's say we're starting with 5 different words. Children that you're working with in this particular group don't know how to map 3 different words. So let's say the first word they don't know is the word that. Let's do a simple word. Now that is a phonetic word. It is completely decodable. It's completely phonetic. And with children know the code, they can be able to decode that word. So that we say we do a typical phoneme grapheme mapping activity. That's the next part of our lesson. Every single one of these words should be phoneme grapheme mapped, and then take a look at those irregular words as well and point out the irregular parts of the words so we can show students that this is the only part of the word that's irregular. This is the part we learn by heart. This is the part we learn by heart. That's where heart words come in. Let's say the word we need to work on is the word that. Okay? I say, friends, say the word that. Echo it. They say that. Let's tap out the sounds we hear in the word that. Th, a, t. Do it again. Th, a, t. That. How many sounds did you hear? 3. We hear 3 sounds. Let's move up our counters. 1, 2, 3. Now what we're going to do is as we move up the counters or the magnetic circles, we're going to say the sounds or phonemes. Th, th. That's the voiced th. Th. You feel it in your vocal cords. Th, a, t. Okay. What letter or letters makes the th sound? What do you hear? Th. What letters? TH. Very good. That's called the voiced TH digraph. Next sound is a. A. What letter spells the a sound? A. Good job. A. What is the last sound? T. What letter spells the t sound? T. That is the word that. And that is how you phoneme, grapheme map words with your students in this particular group. Now, let's say that's a regular word. That is not irregular. It's a regular word. So let's do a word that is irregular. So let's choose, or let's say, okay, this entire group doesn't know the word from. Let's do from, shall we? We're going to say friends. Say the word from. Echo it. From. And they echo the word from. Now that they echoed the word from, let's really focus on the sounds or phonemes in the word from. Let's tap out every sound we hear. F, Let's do it again. F, From. There's 4 sounds or 4 phonemes in the word from. So let's move up 4 of our magnetic circles. That's 4 sounds in the word from. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to move those counters up as we say the phonemes. Here we go. Okay, friends, let's talk about that first sound. What was the first sound? What letter spells F? Good job. Okay, what's the next sound, friends? What letter spells R? Very good. Okay, what's the next sound we hear? Now, knowing what we know, it's an O, and we know O makes O an right? Let's move to the last sound. So before we do this sound, friends, let's go to the last sound. What's the last sound you hear in from? What do you hear? What letter spells M? Good. Now I'm going to say, okay, friends, what do you hear? What sound do you hear? You hear What letter makes the sound? U. Very good. The U makes the sound. But you want to know what? This is a tricky word. In this word, this O right here, this is an O, and it makes the sound. I know, typically O makes and O, but in this word, from, this sound is made with an O, and this is the part we have to learn by heart. This is the part we learn by heart because it doesn't make an or an O sound. It makes an sound. And you actually know what this is called? It's called a schwa. We'll learn about that later on. But can you say schwa? Schwa. That's a schwa sound. And that's how we spell the word from. That is explicit teaching of a high frequency, irregular word. Now, remember I told you that 33 of these words are irregular out of the 109, which is about 25-ish%. From is one of them. But notice, the only part of the word from that is not phonetic or phonetically regular is the O. That's it. F, R, and M are phonetic and regular. They follow the 44 sounds of the English language. The only part that's not or irregular is the O. So we teach that part as the hard part or the tricky part or the heart part because we need to learn it by heart. The part we need to learn by heart. Now that is how we show students how to phoneme, grapheme map high frequency words that they don't know on sight because it's not mapped in their orthographic lexicon. If we do this with students multiple times, they take anywhere between 1 to 4 exposures for this word or a word to be mapped in the part of their brain that maps words, which is called orthographic mapping, the process that happens in the brain. It takes 1 to 4 exposures for students to map that in their brain. And what they're mapping is the sequence of the letters, the mapping of the sequence of the letters. Then this word will become a sight word because it's part of their orthographic lexicon. So, and then the last part of our readiness sequence is after we do these first parts of our lesson plan, and then we map the 3 words or 4 words or however many words you're going to teach for that session, Remember, this will take probably 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how many words your students don't know. It takes a couple of weeks to get through this. The last part is we want to do some writing, because now we want to move from decoding to encoding, the writing and the spelling part of it. So now we're going to take those words that we just phoneme grapheme mapped, and we're going to put them in dictated sentences, and we're going to ask students to write a sentence that we dictate to them. So it moves from decoding to encoding by writing a sentence that we dictate to them. That's the connection of how you teach high frequency words without memorization. We don't want students to memorize these words. We want them to phoneme grapheme map these words so that when they start practicing these, they become mapped in the part of the brain that can orthographically map words. And then once they know them on sight, they're part of their orthographic lexicon. And this is how we teach high frequency words that's based on the science of reading and that follows the research. So are we going to flash high frequency word cards to them and ask them to memorize them? No, we are not. We are going to explicitly teach each one of these words to the students that don't know them. But again, that starts with assessment. So you assess them, find out which words they know on sight, right? Because they're already mapped in their orthographic lexicon, and which words they are going, if they start to sound out, they don't know the word on sight. The moment they start to sound out those words, they are not in their orthographic lexicon, therefore they don't know them by sight, therefore they have not been mapped in their brain. So that's when we go through the whole lesson plan. So that's how we in Structured Literacy with Ease are getting students to move past the initial sounds of the alphabet and then give them a nice solid bank of high frequency words to utilize. So then this particular book called Tim and Max, this is part of our Sequence 1 lessons, part of Sequence 1, and it's actually Lesson 3 because we're doing short I in Lesson 3. So Lesson 3 is short I, part of our program. And then this is the book called Tim and Max. It's focusing on short vowel, CVC words and short vowels, because we actually already taught the CVC syllable type in Lesson 1. And then what we do is we have 3 specific heart words in this particular book. So as part of the lesson plan, these are the 3 high frequency words we are going to teach. Now, you also see words here called phonetic high frequency words. What those are words that we're going to see in the book that they should be able to read because they're phonetic. Now we have did, him, if, in, it, sit. Those all have short I. They're all high frequency words and they're all phonetic. Now here you see these 3 words and these 2 words right here. Oh, big is also there. These 2 words, me and to. Now they have little owls next to them because we call those wise words. We call them wise words because these words are phonetic and they are decodable. They are not irregular, but they might not have the knowledge base of me because it has a long E because they weren't explicitly taught that skill yet. So that's why we call these words wise words, because they haven't learned that skill yet because it comes in a later lesson. And so with the word to, T-O-O. So we teach something called phonetic high frequency words, which are words that are phonetic and can be able to be decoded and phonetically sounded out because they know that skill. So they know short I because we've done it in the lesson. They can read these words. These are the heart words we're going to teach them. And why are we going to teach them these words? Because they're in the book. Whatever words we put here as heart words, they're in the book. So that's how we spiral our skills. If we're teaching specific high frequency words, those are the high frequency words in the book. If we're teaching short I words, those are the words that are in the book. Now, in some cases, we add 1 or 2 preview words because, again, a preview word is a word that they don't possibly know the phonetic sounds yet in the word, but it really helps us to create a great decodable book that's not contrived. That's really our goal, is to create beautiful, wonderful decodable books that aren't contrived. So that's what we do, and that way we accomplish that is if there's 1 or 2 words that we really want to get in there that will help the complexity of the story or the meat of the story, we add it here. So we don't add more than 1 or 2 preview words in a story. But again, the word here is mud. Now, we might not have taught mud, the short U yet, but it's not a difficult word, and it's a CVC word. And then we have the word slop. Again, this has a blend. We haven't taught blends yet, but it does have a short O, and it has a P at the end. So while we haven't explicitly taught those particular skills yet, because we haven't gotten there yet in our scope and sequence, we feel that it adds meat and juice to the story, so we'll bring it in as a preview word. And then the decodable books are just beautiful, well planned out, beautifully illustrated, and they follow our scope and sequence to the letter. Tim the pig was mad. He was too big. He did not fit in his mud pit. So what do we have here? We've got short I all over the place. We've got the word mud, which we did a preview of, and we've got our high frequency words that we taught in the lesson plan. So that's how our decodables and our structured literacy with ease are created. They're created by spiraling skills, and they're in our book, and they're explicitly and systematically taught within each lesson. No words are memorized. And that's what we believe should happen when you're teaching high frequency words. They need to be explicitly taught and phoneme, grapheme mapped. It's not about memorizing them. It's about mapping them so that they can easily become part of their orthographic lexicon. That's the goal of teaching high frequency words, and that's the way you do it. And that is the next shift. I believe I'm on shift number 4. That's shift number 4 of creating small little changes in your instruction that will reap big results with your students. So this little change of, instead of memorizing high frequency words, no more memorizing, we want to do a phoneme grapheme mapping activity, which with each of the high frequency words that will be explicitly brought in through their decodable books that you're going to read based on the phonics skill you're teaching in that lesson. This lesson is short I. We're focusing on CVC words. We're bringing in a decodable book, and we're explicitly teaching a very set of explicit high frequency words that will be found in the book, and we're teaching them the right way. So that's another little shift you can make. Instead of memorizing high frequency words, let's map each of the high frequency words you want your students to use in your lessons and what you're teaching, like this. This is how we want to do it. So this is another very small shift you could make in your teaching to start bringing in the science of reading research into your small group instruction and start moving that way to more of a structured literacy approach in your classroom. So that's it for this lesson today. I know this was a little bit longer, but it's what is going to help us move towards implementing the science in our classroom slowly, meticulously, and being very intentional about how we do it. So instead of just trying to do it all at once, let's try to make some small changes in our instruction that will reap huge results with students. So I hope this video helped. Listen, hang around and watch our next video, because as I mentioned, this is going to be about a 10 video series. And that's what we're doing. And it's all about making small intentional shifts and small intentional changes in our instruction to align more with the science of reading. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you so much for watching. It is truly my honor to have you here. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, send it out to your friends, send it out to admin, post it on social media. That really helps it to get into more teachers' hands. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.